Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack insights from essential books, trying to help you navigate your world a bit better. And today, we're really diving into a big one, Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's truly influential. Yeah, this isn't just some guidebook, it feels more like an invitation maybe, to really transform things. I mean, Warren Bennis called it remarkably written.
Yeah.
So useful for our organization and personal lives, high praise. And Tom Peters, he said, it could change your life. Covey apparently spent, 25 years researching this, trying to figure out what separates the happy, successful folks from, those who aren't quite there. And it hits on something deep, doesn't it? That inner hunger people feel even when they look successful on the outside. It asks that tough question, is all that success worth it if it costs you your family, your personal life, and you kind of lose touch with who you even are?
Absolutely. And what I find compelling is that right from the start, the book makes it clear. This isn't about quick fixes or just tweaking things on the surface. It's about foundational principles, stuff that actually leads to lasting change. So our mission today really is to explore these core ideas. How can they genuinely provide a blueprint for elevating your mindset, for finding success that actually feels right for you?
Okay, so let's unpack that. The book kicks things off with this really key concept, paradigms.
Yeah.
Think of them like mental maps or maybe filters. They're how we see and interpret everything around us. And they're not just beliefs, are they? They actually shape our reality, often without us even realizing it.
Right. And the book uses such a powerful analogy for this. Imagine you're trying to find your way around Chicago, but the map you have is actually for Detroit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can try harder, be more positive, run faster, whatever, but you're still going to be lost. Why? Because your fundamental map is wrong. And that just makes you stop and think, doesn't it? How accurate are your own mental maps? Are they really guiding you where you want to go?
That's a great question. And it gets even clearer with that visual perception thing he describes. Where two people look at the exact same picture. Maybe it's a drawing of a woman.
Yeah, the young woman picture.
Exactly. And one sees a young lady, the other sees an old hag. Same lines, same spaces.
But their conditioning, their past experiences, lead them to totally different views. And both views are technically valid based on the lines they see.
It really shows how subjective our objective reality can be.
And what's so powerful there is understanding how this affects our interactions. We tend to think we're the objective ones, right? But the book says we see the world as we are, or as we're conditioned to see it. So when someone disagrees,
we think something's wrong with them.
Exactly. But maybe they're just seeing it through their unique lens, their own map. And just getting that can really elevate how we communicate, turning arguments into, learning opportunities.
So how does this idea of paradigms affect how we try to improve ourselves? The book makes this really vital distinction, the personality ethic versus the character ethic. The personality one is all about the surface stuff, right? Charm, social skills, positive thinking, techniques to get people to like you or to sort of manage situations.
Yeah, it's like trying to look good on the outside, the quick fix approach.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it's like cramming for an exam. It might work for a bit.
But it doesn't last.
Right. It lacks real integrity. The book says, only basic goodness gives life to technique. And Emerson put it so well, what you are shouts so loudly I cannot hear what you say. It means that your fundamental character, who you really are inside, that's what truly matters for long-term relationships and success. That's the foundation for an elevated mindset.
Which leads perfectly into the core philosophy, the inside-out approach, lasting solutions, real happiness, genuine success. They don't come from fixing things out there or trying to change other people.
Now, they come from within, from working on ourselves first, changing our paradigms, our character, and then that internal shift starts to affect everything else. It's like this continuous upward spiral of growth and renewal that starts with you.
Okay, so the first habit in this inside-out journey is be proactive. This is all about taking responsibility, right? For your life, your choices. The book shares that incredibly moving story of Viktor Frankl, imprisoned in Nazi death camps. Unimaginable suffering.
Yeah, it's profound.
And yet, in that horror, he discovered what he called the last of the human freedoms.
And what's amazing about Frankl's insight is this. He realized that between the stimulus, whatever happens to you, and your response to it, there's a space, a gap. And in that space lies your freedom, your power to choose your response. It really forces you to ask, am I just a product of my circumstances? Or am I actively choosing how I respond, how I navigate challenges? That's a huge mindset shift right there.
Definitely. And proactive people, Covey says, they're driven by their values. They carry their own weather with them. They aren't just pushed around by their environment or how other people act.
Right.
He gives that example of the nurse who was miserable because of a difficult patient until she had this realization she was choosing to be miserable.
Yeah.
And then she chose not to be.
And it felt like being let out of prison, she said. That internal choice changed everything.
Wow.
So proactivity fundamentally means taking initiative.
Yeah.
It means recognizing it's your responsibility to make things happen.
Yeah.
And this is key, focusing your energy on your circle of influence.
Okay, so the things you can actually do something about.
Exactly. Complaining, blaming, worrying about things outside your control. That's your circle of concern, but it drains your energy. Proactivity means putting energy where it counts, elevating your sense of agency.
And this applies to mistakes, too, doesn't it? We can't always choose the consequences.
No, consequences are often governed by principles or natural laws.
But we can choose our response to those consequences. We can admit the mistake, learn from it, correct it.
Instead of blaming or making excuses, that proactive response keeps the power with you. It fosters resilience, a stronger mindset.
So for someone listening right now, what's a practical way to start being more proactive? The book actually suggests a 30-day test.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
For 1 month, just focus your efforts entirely within your circle of influence. Make small commitments to yourself and keep them. Be a light, not a judge, a model, not a critic. Solve problems, don't just point them out.
Work on you. It sounds simple, but doing that consistently, that can seriously elevate your mindset and your feeling of control.
Okay, moving on. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. This one's based on the idea that everything is created twice.
First mentally, then physically.
Right, like first there's the blueprint, the vision, the first creation, and then comes the actual building, the physical thing, the second creation.
You wouldn't build a house without a plan, right?
Hopefully not.
Well, this habit is about applying that same principle to your own life, designing it purposefully instead of just letting it happen.
And to really drive this home, the book has this incredibly powerful exercise.
And funeral visualization. Yeah.
Visualize your own funeral maybe 3 years from now. What would you want people, family, friends, colleagues, to genuinely say about you, about the life you lived?
It's intense, but it cuts right to the core, doesn't it? It forces you to ask, is the ladder I'm climbing leaning against the right wall?
Are my daily actions actually aligned with what matters most to me in the long run? That exercise can totally shift your perspective, elevate your sense of purpose.
Definitely. And this habit also highlights the difference between leadership and management.
Ah, right. Management is about efficiency, doing things right.
Climbing the ladder fast.
But leadership is about effectiveness, doing the right things.
Making sure the ladder is on the right wall in the first place. It's about asking, what results do I really want to achieve? That clarity is crucial for an elevated, purposeful life.
And a really interesting concept here is re-scripting.
Yes. We all have these scripts, from our upbringing, society, past hurts. They often run our lives automatically.
Remitting us.
Totally. But Covey says, with self-awareness, imagination, our conscience, we can actually rewrite those scripts. We can proactively choose a new narrative.
He shares that amazing story of Anwar Sadat.
In prison, through deep reflection, he re-scripted his intense hatred for Israel
into this incredibly bold move for peace, changed history. It shows the power of taking control of your inner story to shape your outer world.
Absolutely. And this idea of having a clear inner direction connects to understanding your center.
What you base your security, guidance, wisdom, and power on.
Right. The book looks at common centers people have. Their spouse, family, money, work, possessions, pleasure, even enemies sometimes.
Or the church, or just the self.
And each of those has weaknesses, right? If you're money-centered, what happens in a financial crisis? If you're spouse-centered, what if the relationship struggles? Your whole foundation feels shaky.
So what's the alternative?
Centering your life on timeless, unchanging principles. Things like fairness, integrity, human dignity, service, growth.
Like lighthouses.
Exactly. They don't shift. Centering on principles gives you this deep, unshakable security and guidance, no matter what's happening externally. It's a foundation for a truly stable and elevated way of living.
The book also talks about using visualization and affirmations, tapping into the right brain.
Yeah, and this isn't just like wistful thinking. Top athletes, peak performers, they visualize success vividly before it happens.
So you can create affirmations, personal, positive, present tense, visual, emotional, to help guide your responses. Like in a tough parenting moment, you could have an affirmation ready to help you respond with love and wisdom.
It's about proactively programming yourself for the responses you want. Another tool for elevating your mindset.
And then there's defining your roles.
Right. What roles do you play? Parent, spouse, manager, friend, community member, individual.
Identifying those roles and setting long-term goals for each, aligned with your principles, that brings real clarity and balance, doesn't it?
Huge direction. It makes sure you're not just succeeding in one area, like work, while failing in others that are just as important.
And this isn't just for individuals, families, organizations.
Yes. The power of a shared mission statement, like a family constitution, defining your core values and vision together.
Or that hotel example where uncompromising personalized service became their guiding principle.
And they involved everyone in creating it. That buy-in created incredible dedication. It aligns everyone, elevates the whole operation.
Okay, so we've got be proactive, habit 1, begin with the end in mind, habit 2, which leads us to habit 3, put first things first.
This is where the rubber meets the road, really. It's the practical application of the first two habits.
The day-to-day doing, exercising your independent will to live by your principles and vision.
Exactly. And a central tool here is the time management matrix.
Ah, yes, the 4 quadrants, based on urgency and importance.
Right. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important crises, deadlines.
Quadrant 3 is urgent, but not important interruptions, some calls, emails, things that clamor for attention but don't really move the needle.
And most people spend way too much time bouncing between I and the third. They're constantly reacting.
But the key to effectiveness and really elevating your impact lies in Quadrant 2.
The important but not urgent stuff.
Yes, like planning, prevention, building relationships, exercise, learning, finding new opportunities.
All the things that don't shout at you but are absolutely vital for long-term success and well-being. That's where proactive people focus their time.
Okay, but the big question is, how do you make time for Quadrant 2 when Quadrants 1 and 3 are always yelling?
You have to learn to say no. Specifically saying no to those urgent but not important, Quadrant 3 activities, and the not urgent, not important, Quadrant 4 time wasters.
But saying no can be hard.
It is, unless you have a bigger yes burning inside.
Your mission, your core values from habit 2.
Exactly. When you're deeply committed to your purpose, it becomes much easier to say no to things that don't align with it. That yes empowers your no, keeping you focused and elevated.
That makes sense. Now, a really practical part of this habit is delegation.
Oh, huge. But the book draws a critical distinction
between go for delegation and stewardship delegation.
Right. Go for delegation is basically micromanaging. Go for this, go for that, do it exactly like this. You're focused on methods.
Okay.
Stewardship delegation, on the other hand, focuses on results. You clarify the desired outcome, the guidelines, the resources, the accountability, and the consequences.
And then you empower the other person to figure out the best method. You trust them.
Precisely. It's about developing people, not just using them.
That story about the dad delegating the yard work to his son is a perfect example.
He didn't just say clean the yard. He set up a clear agreement. What green and clean looked like, who was responsible for what, how progress would be checked.
And it wasn't just about getting the yard done, was it? It built the son's self-management skills, strengthened their relationship.
Absolutely. Even if the dad could do it faster himself initially, investing in his son's production capability, his ability to produce results paid off way more in the long run. It elevates both people.
And that applies in organizations too, right? That example of the sales manager.
Oh yeah, the creaming example. They were only focusing on easy, high-commission sales, neglecting long-term customer relationships because the system incentivized it.
But when the company changed the compensation structure to reward win-win behavior,
the problem vanished overnight. It showed powerfully that sometimes the issue isn't the people, it's the system they're in. Put good people in bad systems, you get bad results. Understanding that can elevate how you lead and structure things.
Okay, so we've covered the private victories, habits 1, 2, and 3. Now we move into the public sphere, our interactions with others.
Right, and the foundation for this is the emotional bank account metaphor.
I love this one. Every interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal.
Simple, but profound. Deposits are things like understanding the person, being courteous, keeping your promises, clarifying expectations.
And withdrawals, breaking promises, being rude, ignoring someone, making assumptions. Even small things can be big withdrawals for some people.
And the crucial insight here is You don't really know what counts as a deposit for someone else.
Yeah, until you truly understand them.
Exactly. Which leads us straight into habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
This feels counterintuitive sometimes. Our instinct is often to get our point across first.
Totally. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. We filter everything through our own experiences, our own autobiography, as Covey calls it.
He gives that example of the father trying to talk to his teenage son about school problems.
The dad means well. He's trying to help, giving advice, evaluating, probing.
But he completely misses what the son is actually feeling, the frustration, the pressure. He's diagnosing before he understands.
Right. He's prescribing based on his own map, not his son's reality. It just creates distance.
So what's the alternative?
Empathic listening. Really trying to see the world through the other person's eyes.
Which involves more than just listening to the words, right?
Much more. It's reflecting back not just the content of what they're saying, but also the feeling behind it.
Giving them psychological air.
Exactly. Creating a safe space for them to open up, to feel truly heard, maybe for the first time. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are you really giving people that space? Or just jumping in with your solutions? Shifting that can elevate every relationship you have.
And this connects to those classic principles of influence: ethos, pathos, and logos.
Yeah. Your character or credibility, ethos, and your ability to connect emotionally, your empathy, pathos.
Have to come before your logic, logos, if you want people to actually listen and be influenced. Understanding comes first.
Spot on. And once you have that foundation of understanding, it opens the door for habit 4. Think win-win.
This isn't just a negotiation tactic, is it? It's deeper.
It's a whole mindset, a philosophy for human interaction, constantly seeking mutual benefit.
Believing there's enough for everyone, the abundance mentality, not scarcity.
Right. Life isn't a zero-sum game. It can be cooperative.
The book outlines the other options too: win-lose, lose-win.
Yeah, win-lose is the authoritarian approach. Lose-win is being a doormat, just trying to please people.
And lose-lose, which is just destructive conflict where everyone suffers.
But the really powerful and sometimes brave option is win-win or no deal. If you can't find a solution that truly benefits both parties, that you both feel good about, then you agree to disagree agreeably. No deal.
That takes courage. But it preserves the relationship, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It gives you emotional freedom and often pushes you to find more creative, truly synergistic solutions later. It elevates the whole interaction beyond just compromise.
Which brings us perfectly to habit 6, synergize.
The grand finale of the interdependent habits, where the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts.
This is what happens when you combine that win-win attitude with the deep understanding from empathic listening.
You start creating solutions that neither person could have come up with alone. These new, unexpected third alternatives.
It's about creative cooperation.
And critically, it's about valuing differences. Recognizing that other people see things differently isn't a threat, it's an opportunity.
Because my perspective alone is limited.
Exactly. Combining different perspectives leads to a much richer understanding of reality and opens the door to innovation.
Like that couple wanting different vacations. One wants the lake, the other needs to visit a sick mother.
Instead of compromising where neither is happy, they synergize. They find a creative third alternative that meets both needs in a new way. Maybe find a place near the mother that also has a lake, or structure the trip differently.
It's looking beyond the initial positions to the underlying needs.
Yes. And there's also psychic synergy within yourself, integrating your logical side and your intuitive creative side for more holistic thinking.
Wow. Okay, so after all these habits focused on character, vision, execution, and relationships, what keeps it all going?
Habit 7, sharpen the saw.
This is all about renewal, right? Preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, yourself.
It's your personal production capability. If you don't take time to maintain the tool, your ability to produce results, live effectively, diminishes.
Like the woodcutter hacking away with a dull saw, refusing to take time to sharpen it because he's too busy cutting.
Exactly. Short-sighted.
Yeah.
Habit 7 is about investing in yourself across 4 key dimensions.
Physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional.
And neglecting any one of these can hold you back. Create restraining forces against your growth. Balance renewal is key to elevating your overall capacity.
So physically, that's exercise, nutrition, rest.
Yeah. Regular, balanced exercise endurance like aerobics, flexibility through stretching, and strength training. And Covey notes that exercise also builds your proactivity muscles. It gives you energy and discipline.
Okay. And spiritual renewal.
This is about connecting with your core values, your center. It could be prayer, meditation, spending time in nature, immersing yourself in great music or literature, whatever inspires you and recommits you to your principles.
He tells that story about Dr. Gordon being prescribed a day alone.
Yeah, to reflect on past joys, examine his motives. If one's motives are wrong, nothing can be right, and write his worries in the sand. It's about finding that deeper meaning and grounding your mindset.
Then mentally, sharpening the mind.
Continuous learning, reading challenging material, thinking critically, writing, planning, and also being mindful of things that dull the mind, like excessive mindless TV.
That family who consciously cut back on TV, it opened up so much more time for reading, projects, actually talking to each other.
A deliberate choice for mental growth.
And finally, the social-emotional dimension.
This is about making meaningful contributions, service to others, and also how we see and treat others, scripting them positively.
How we reflect back to them.
Exactly. The book talks about the social mirror. We often become what the important people in our lives think we are. So the question is, how are you reflecting others? Are you affirming their potential, believing in their proactive nature?
Like those teachers whose expectations actually influence student IQ scores.
Precisely. Our belief in others can be incredibly powerful, helping to elevate their self-perception and capability.
And pulling all this renewal together is the daily private victory.
Yes, committing at least 1 hour each day to sharpening the saw across those first 3 dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental.
It's a Quadrant II activity, right?
Right.
Important, but not urgent.
Totally. So it requires proactivity to make it happen consistently. But the payoff is huge. It builds your intrinsic security, your self-mastery. It's the foundation that elevates everything else.
It really feels like sharpening the saw is the habit that makes all the other habits possible in the long run.
Absolutely. It fuels the whole process. It gives you the capacity, the security, the abundance mentality needed to live the other habits effectively, especially in your relationships. It ensures ongoing growth and elevates your entire approach to life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Covey's work, it seems clear that real effectiveness, that truly elevated mindset, it doesn't just happen from chasing external goals.
No, it really springs from that inside-out journey we talked about.
A commitment to character, being proactive, having a clear vision, prioritizing what matters, understanding others, seeking synergy.
And constantly renewing yourself. It's about understanding that your paradigms, your maps, shape everything. And lining those maps with timeless principles gives you incredible strength.
That security, wisdom, guidance, power.
And remembering that crucial space between stimulus and response. That's where your freedom lies. That choice can literally transform your life, moving you from being reactive to being the creative force in your own life.
It's definitely not a quick fix. It's described as an upward spiral, right? Continuous learning, committing, doing.
Yes, but the good news is the book promises you'll see positive results, encouragement pretty quickly along the way. It feeds itself.
So maybe the question to leave everyone with is this. How might intentionally working on your character, really understanding your own mental maps, how might that begin to reshape not just what you achieve on the outside, but the actual quality of every relationship and every decision you make starting right now?
That's the deep dive for you to take next.